Many years ago, a war broke out. A not-so-secret war witnessed by the eyes of millions the world over. Yet its story is still unknown to many of those living today. So great was this war that it lasted for almost a decade. Sweat, tears, and blood were spilled on American soil. Bones were broken, and the courses of thousands of lives were changed forever as the casualties piled up. And for what? Money? Glory? Selfish pride? At the height of this war, it was impossible to tell which side was going to emerge victorious, or if the war was ever going to end at all. But then something happened. Something changed. The balance of power shifted, and the Monday Night Wars were never the same. No matter what WCW tried, they just couldn't recapture that spark of genius that brought them success in the earlier years of the war. The then WWF, on the other hand, kept on churning out new wrestlers that were outperforming WCW's older roster. The writing was on the wall, and on that fateful Monday evening of March 26, 2001, Vince McMahon ended the war by declaring his victory on national TV. He had bought WCW, his rival promotion. Vince and the WWF had won. He didn't achieve this all on his own, of course, and instrumental in this victory was, you guessed it, The Rock. And now, 20 years later, The Rock once again threatens the balance of power in the established superhero movie genre with DC's Black Adam. Greetings, guys and gals! Gospel here. Gospel to the Geek. And if you grew up watching professional wrestling in the 90s, then you'll probably be familiar with the then WWF's, now WWE's, Attitude Era. It was during this time that there was a notable shift from more traditional, safer content to edgier and mature content that tested the limits of what networks could show on live TV. Gone were the days of babyfaces like Hulk Hogan telling kids to say their prayers and take their vitamins. Now, babyfaces were flipping the bird at their bosses and performing crotch chops while telling two people to, suck it. The line between heel and babyface, the line between villain and hero was blurred. Heck, even Hulk Hogan, the real American hero, kid-friendly superstar, turned heel during this time. He became a bad guy, and people loved it. Well, they hated it too, but in the world of wrestling, that's a good thing. Another example of good guys gone bad would be Rocky Maivia. Name sound familiar? Yep. Even the Great One himself was first billed as some straight-laced, goody-two-shoes babyface. Now for those unfamiliar with wrestling terminology, a babyface, or face, simply means the good guy. The guy who opposes the bad guy, aka the heel. The babyface is the one the crowd is supposed to cheer for, and the heel, the one the crowd is supposed to boo. But that's not what we saw with Rocky. Although he was billed as descended from a line of beloved Samoan wrestlers and a really good wrestler himself, people still hated him. They booed and jeered at him, they yelled all sorts of nasty stuff at him, and he was supposed to be the face. A far cry from the people's champ that the millions and millions of fans know of him today. It wasn't until the Attitude Era, when he turned heel and became the greatest trash talker in all of wrestling history, that the crowd started cheering for him. The Attitude Era was something else. Bad guys, villains, and heels like Stone Cold, The Undertaker, and DX were getting over with the American audience. This was WWE's response to their losing streak against WCW in the ratings war, and it eventually won them the Monday Night Wars. DC is in a similar position right now, struggling against the powerhouse that is Disney Marvel. You just know they tried to do this in the past, by both turning Superman and Batman into killers. Maybe thinking that edgier heroes who killed the bad guys were, cooler. And even though I loved Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, I have to admit, the part where Superman kills General Zod, and the one where Batman kills literally everybody, really didn't work in favor for those movies. It even looks that they tried to pull an evil Superman angle, but failed to commit. And I think it's good they didn't. The evil Superman trope is 100% overrated, if you ask me. Which is why making a movie about Black Adam instead seems like a better choice. Making the good guys turn heel didn't seem to be working. So why not make the bad guys turn face? And Black Adam is a bad guy. Especially in the comics. He is a villain. In wrestling terms, he was the heel to Captain Marvel's, aka Shazam's, babyface. In his new 52 origin story, Tath Adam was a vengeful man who sought power over the oppressive tyrant that ruled his homeland, Kondak. They had killed his family, and he was willing to do anything for revenge. Fortunately for him, the wizard Shazam had given his powers to his kind-hearted nephew, Aman, who then shared it with him. Aman had hoped that they could both work together and save their country with mercy and hope. But Adam had other plans. In return for sharing his powers, Black Adam murdered his nephew, took that power all for himself, and went on to rule Kondak with an iron fist. When the Council of Wizards attempted to intervene, he goes on a murderous rampage, but before he could kill all of them, the last wizard manages to banish or seal him away, depending on which version of the story you're reading. Either way, millennia later, he returns and does a whole bunch of evil stuff. Most notable of which was the destruction of an entire country, along with its 2 million residents, women and children included. What can I say? The man had anger management issues. Now, while similar in many ways, the movie Black Adam is also quite different. They have similar origin stories, but the movie mixes things up a bit, which was a good decision to make in my opinion. Shazam was a really good movie, and a Christian movie when you really think about it too. But the plot was somewhat predictable, as it was very faithful to the comic book source, which I was already familiar with. This movie also seems to be based on that same story, which is why I appreciate the changes they made. Unfortunately, the trailer kind of spoiled the plot and revealed that Black Adam wasn't some kind of child killer. But hey, it's a superhero movie. In this movie, Tath Adam and his son Hurut are both slaves to the corrupt tyrant ruling Kondak. Hurut, being the brave and honorable boy that he is chosen by the wizards to be their champion and the liberator of Kondak, and they imbue him with magical powers. Now unable to hurt the supernaturally powered boy, the tyrant and his men turn on Hurut's parents, Tath Adam and his wife. They succeed in killing his wife, but leave Adam mortally wounded for Hurut to find when he eventually returned home. And when he does, and finds his dad dying, he transfers his power over to Adam to save him. However, the soldiers were lying in wait the whole time, waiting for the moment Hurut became powerless. They then fire a volley of arrows at Adam and his son. The arrows do nothing to Adam, but kill the now powerless Hurut. Blind with rage, Tath Adam goes on a murder spree. The wizards summon him to stop his mad rampage, but just like in the comic book, he proceeds to kill them too. Again, one wizard survives and seals him away. And this is where our story picks up after his release into the modern world. Will Tath Adam follow his comic book villain counterpart and become ruler of Kondak, or will he become its hero? I really love this movie. This might actually be DC's ticket to winning the superhero movie wars. Disney Marvel has gotten really complacent and has consistently put out trash as of late, so DC made the right choice picking up The Rock. It cannot be overstated how important The Rock was to WWE during the Monday Night Wars. He knew how to get people riled up, how to get arena seats filled, and boy does The Rock know how to sell a movie. He really put those legendary mic skills to use. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. The way he was selling Adam, like the big change in the hierarchy of power in the DC universe, it kind of made him look like a prick. He seemed so smug and full of himself.
Things will never be the same, because the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
like a heel. But that's how wrestling works. That's how you get people in the seats. A heel is just as effective in selling tickets as the face. And I think some people might have bought tickets just to see Adam get his face caved in by the JSA. I know I did. I really wanted Dr. Fate to give him a magical dropkick to the face, or something like that. Now, while the movie didn't have any magical dropkicks to the face, it did have quite a bit of WWE's ruthless aggression. I was kind of surprised that it managed a PG-13 rating with the amount of blood and dismemberment that took place within the movie. Black Adam is not a good guy after all, like Batman or Superman, which is why him doing bad stuff like tearing people apart and killing them is kind of justifiable in the eyes of a DC fan. But is watching Black Adam justifiable for a Christian? Now let me get one thing straight. Violence is bad. Murder is bad. And Black Adam does a lot of that. But Black Adam is not the Antichrist, or the devil, or some kind of satanic recruitment ad. I think you know what I'm talking about. It seems like almost every time a big-name studio releases a new movie, some Christians are quick to grab their pitchforks and torches, form a mob, and criticize said movie as being pagan, evil, and even satanic without watching it first. That happened quite ironically with Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and even the Chronicles of Narnia. But even kid shows like My Little Pony Friendship is Magic were not spared. Seriously? Twilight Sparkle's magic literally comes from friendship, not from the devil. Though I have to admit, things got a little weird when they started catering the show to adults. But I digress. Now that Black Adam is being branded as the devil incarnate by some Christians, I think it's about time we talked about this, in a civil manner, as Christians. Hi, Gospel and Editing here. I just realized that I didn't make a disclaimer to these videos, so that's what this is. Please do not go and harass these people, go to their video type, leave comments and dislike it. I feel like they're sincere Christians and love Jesus just like I do. I just happen to disagree with a lot of stuff they're saying, especially with the stuff about Black Adam being the Antichrist. But that's all, back to the video. So I watched a couple of anti-Black Adam videos on YouTube, and I found that a common thread in all of them was that Black Adam represented the devil, as evidenced by his lightning symbol being a reference to Lucifer's fall from heaven, like lightning, in Luke 10:18. Which I think is kind of absurd. I think a better explanation of this is that his logo is a copy of Captain Marvel's logo. The original Captain Marvel, not the one over there at Disney Marvel. Black Adam was created as the evil Captain Marvel after all, so of course they had to share the same logo. I mean, everyone in the Marvel family had the same logo. And since the original Captain Marvel, aka Billy Batson, was the most Christian boy in all of comic book history, the original one I mean, it is safe to assume that the logo wasn't created to represent the devil. Instead, it was supposed to symbolize the source of his magical powers, the living lightning. Now, some will say that the lightning bolt is a pagan symbol of Zeus, which would make a teensy bit more sense if it looked like Zeus's thunderbolt, except that it doesn't look like it at all. The Greek thunderbolt looks nothing like Adam's logo. But even if it did, are all lightning symbols pagan now? Should we stop drinking Gatorade too? This feels like the Illuminati symbol all over again, which by the way also makes an appearance in this movie. What's up with that? Is the movie trying to make me a Satanist? Is the movie trying to turn me into Black Adam? And that is the general sentiment brought up in these videos, that Black Adam is the opposite of Adam, an evil Adam, a mockery of Jesus Christ, the new Adam. And since Black Adam is the furthest thing from Christ, he has to be an Antichrist. Black Adam is prideful, boasts in his own power. He declares that he is not a hero. And the argument is that the movie wants us to turn us into that, a villain, a heel. But is the movie trying to do that? Does the movie portray the evil Adam as someone we should strive to? Now the Bible says in Philippians 4:8, Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. I want to argue that while there are indeed scenes of gratuitous violence that make Adam out to be an evil Adam, there are also many things honorable and praiseworthy about this movie. I don't think this movie is subconsciously trying to turn me into Black Adam. And to understand this, let's go back to the movie. So Black Adam has just been brought back to the modern age, and he does a lot of seemingly evil stuff. When he is first released from his imprisonment, he kills a group of mercenaries, which seems like an evil thing to do, except when you realize that he holds off killing them at first. He's just there kneeling on the ground and doesn't do anything really until they try and hurt him. Only then does he start to kill them. And even when he is busy taking them down, he is careful not to hurt the unarmed woman they were trying to kill. So in a way, he was saving her from them. Now when they send in an army to kill him, one could argue that he was completely within his rights to fight back with lethal means. I mean, they have put him in a self-defense situation. He doesn't know what they're capable of, or what he's capable of doing to them. He's been gone for thousands of years. For all he knows, they could have had magical powers too. Although it soon becomes obvious that they really don't offer any challenge to him, he doesn't know that. And when he eventually lets his guard down, he gets blasted by an Eternium missile and is badly wounded. So yeah, maybe he was within his rights to use deadly force after all. Now just because they're his rights, doesn't mean he is right in killing them. That's why he is an anti-hero. But legally speaking, it can be argued that Black Adam was simply practicing his rights. In response to his assault against the Inner Gang army, Amanda Waller, the head of a secretive government organization, sends in the JSA to stop Black Adam and take him into custody. So they fly over from what I'm guessing is the US, since this is the Justice Society of America, and fly all the way to Kondak to confront Black Adam. Now while the movie kind of portrays the JSA as the good guys, one could also argue that they were bad people. I mean, a foreign organization meddling with the internal conflicts of a sovereign country who isn't even asking them for help and doesn't even want it in the first place? Doesn't sound good guyish to me. Especially when they answer to Amanda Waller, one of the most evil people in the DC universe. I know, lawful evil, but evil nonetheless. So again, I think he was within his rights to fight them. Now does movie Black Adam choose the path of comic book Black Adam? Does he become a tyrant? Does he cross international borders and start World War III? No, he doesn't. While he initially resists helping the good guys, he decides to work with them in order to save a child. Comic book Black Adam, if you remember, was a child killer. And after saving the child, when he realizes that he is a danger to those around him, he willingly submits himself to be imprisoned. Does that sound like a bad guy to you? Ultimately, at the end of the movie, when he is given the choice to become the ruler of Kondak, he declines and then smashes the throne, symbolically destroying any future temptation for him to ever rule over the people. Does that sound like the Antichrist to you? It's obvious that Black Adam isn't exactly the most Christian story out there. But that kind of begs the question, what makes a story a Christian story? Do the characters always have to act like Christ? Do they have to live perfect, sinless lives? Does the story have to mention God? Well, if a story has to meet all these criteria, then we might as well stop reading the Bible, or at least some of the stories in it. Have you ever read the book Judges? There are things in that book that you absolutely cannot show on the big screen. Things even more violent than the movie Black Adam, and he tears a guy in half in that movie. How about the book of Esther? It doesn't even mention God once. Should we stop reading it then? No. How about the heroes in the Bible? Man, we talk about Gideon like he was some kind of superhero, but the man was a coward. a weakling, unbelievable, unfaithful servant who, after being used to free Israel from the idol-worshipping pagans, he leads them right back into idolatry. Yet God still used him. Now, I'm not saying God is using Black Adam to bring the whole world to the knowledge of Jesus Christ, but he can. A Christian story isn't simply a story that has Christ in it. A Christian story is a story where the gospel of Christ can be read into it. And that's what I'm trying to do here. See, Black Adam is a type of Adam. A person who was given the choice to do good or to do evil. Comic book Adam chose to do evil. He was a tyrant who chose to be his own source of morality. He would bow down to no one and would kill anyone, even a child, as long as it achieved his own definition of paradise. He did what was right in his own eyes. Movie Black Adam could have gone that route too. He chose evil in the beginning as well, but instead of putting himself before others, he saves a child. Instead of subjecting himself to his own morals, he admits that he is a threat to others and submits himself to judgment and imprisonment for all eternity. So he gets sealed away once again. Unfortunately, his earlier actions triggers the birth of the demon Sabak. He fell for the temptation to kill, and murder was precisely what the demon needed to enter into our world. Interestingly, in the comic, Sabak wasn't exactly a demon from hell, but a human possessed by the 7 deadly sins. I know they already used the sins in the movie Shazam, so they couldn't reuse them here, but wouldn't that have made a better analogy? Adam brought Sabak, or sin, into the world. At that time, only one person knew this was going to happen, and that was Dr. Fate, the real hero of this movie. Dr. Fate has the ability to see the future. He knew a way of defeating Sabak without anyone else having to lose their lives. He also knew that this way would result in his death. In spite of that, he gives his life to save others, while opening a path for Black Adam to escape his imprisonment. And together, Black Adam and JSA band to fight the demon Sabak, a symbol of his sin. And with the help of forces external to himself, he is finally able to gain the victory. Isn't this the Christian story? In the beginning, Adam was given the choice to obey God's rules or make rules of his own. He chose the latter. He chose to be his own arbiter of good and evil. He became his own God, and because of that, sin was brought into the world. In order to rid the world of sin, God declared that everyone with sin has to perish, to return to the dust. And since we all are sinners, we deserve death, the eternal prison which we are all destined to be prisoners to. We have all done this to ourselves. Our sins are our undoing. However, knowing that this was going to happen, God had a plan. He was going to die in our place, receive the punishment for our sins, so that we can have a way out of death and into everlasting life. With our eternity secured, we can live just like Jesus did, putting others before ourselves, being servants instead of rulers. Heroes who care for others, and not rulers who would exert power over them. The Attitude Era was something else. It encouraged violence. I remember as a kid knocking a guy out while we were wrestling. I'm not exactly sure if he was pretending, but I had to drag his seemingly unconscious body home. I also loved The Undertaker, and I remember using his signature move, the tombstone pile driver, on others. I was one of the bigger kids back then, so they couldn't really fight back. It influenced me in negative ways. While I still wish every now and then that I was a professional wrestler, I'm just happy that Jesus saved me from becoming a violent bully. Only God knows how many people became bullies because of wrestling. We should be careful what we put in front of us, especially with children. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we should all go out and watch Black Adam or whatever movies we want to. But we should be careful about making rules prohibiting things that God never prohibited in the first place. You know, God gave the Israelites the 613 laws in Torah. but by the time of Jesus, it had evolved into thousands of new ones. You hypocrites! Well did Isaiah prophesy of you when he said, "This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far away from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men." Jesus, however, did give us one rule to help in these types of situations. And if your eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. If you think Black Adam is like the Attitude Era and will make you become violent, then don't watch it. Guard your hearts, and especially the hearts of your children. Movie ratings don't mean much nowadays, so make sure you understand the gospel or have an idea about what the movie is before you go to watch it. I don't know, maybe watch this video first. Share it too if you want. But to make a law out of it and forbid other Christians to watch this movie is something entirely different. I mean, I've watched the movie. Again, I'm not telling you to watch it. If you don't want to, then by all means, please don't. But I don't feel any different than I did entering the theater. I don't think I'll be worshipping the devil anytime soon either. And I've even managed to see the gospel, hidden though it may be, in the movie. However, if you get an overwhelming compulsion to worship pagan gods, or worse yet the devil, after watching this movie, then you have serious issues. Seek help. Kidding aside, I don't really see anything in this movie that is supposed to shake my faith in the one true God and Savior Jesus Christ. Not even a little bit. I think Black Adam is very different from what WWE put out in the 90s. This movie doesn't turn a good guy into a bad guy. It does the complete opposite. This movie takes a heel, a bad guy, destined to be imprisoned for all eternity, and turns him into a face, a hero, someone who puts others before him. Isn't that what the gospel is supposed to do? Isn't that what Jesus offers to all of us? Now, time to nitpick. The movie was great. I give it 4 out of 5 stars, but it was far from perfect. The plot was kind of stupid when you really think about it. I mean, the big MacGuffin, the Crown of Sabak, wasn't even well hidden. You didn't need a special key or any powers to get it either. Yet the big bad guy in the movie couldn't fight it himself. Even though they had control of the whole region, and were looking for Eternium, which the crown was made entirely of, I'm pretty sure they had the tech to look or detect Eternium, but for whatever reason, they couldn't find it. Oh, and there's this one thing too that I really hate about superhero movies, and those are the creeps. You know, those extra soldiers the boss summons at the end of the movie? They're never a real threat, and sometimes only there for comedic relief. And this movie has the lousiest version of that. I mean, the hordes of hell can be held back by children and women now? Come on. It kicks me out of the experience. I really hate it when a supposedly serious movie tries to throw in cheap comedy. And this movie has a lot of that. I think DC should stick to more serious content and resist the urge to, Deadpool things. By the way, I really hate Deadpool. Also, why in the world is a boy treating Black Adam like a baby? Like the Iron Giant or the Terminator in Terminator 2. Black Adam is a grown-up man who was already an adult when he was sealed. The fish out of water thing is kind of fun when you do it right. But it makes no sense to turn Black Adam into that. Don't teach him corny one-liners, and even if you do, please don't make him say them. He's out there busting skulls, tearing people in half, and the stuff with the poor comedic timing just takes me out of the experience. Anyways, that's all I can think of right now. But what else about the movie didn't you like? What other superhero movies do you find the Christian message hidden in it? Let me know in the comments below, because that's what I do. I expose the gospel hidden in comics, anime, and geek culture. Because seriously, the gospel is undeniably for the geek. Thanks for watching, guys, and Godspeed. Good friend Gospel here. Gospel to the geek. Gone. Bye bye!